Alright, hello everybody, and welcome back to LSR after a brief, 1 week break for the Thanksgiving holiday for a large part of our U.S. contingent. If you'll excuse me, as we start qualifying here under the lights in Singapore, with somewhat disappointingly short qualifying in today's race. We got 17 cars on the grid. Hopefully we'll get 2 remaining drivers, but we are getting ready to go with round 6 here. Again, under lights with our very technical street circuit of the season, and the return of a number of drivers onto the grid. Most notably, in the Sauber seat today will be Frozen, so another fast driver back into the fold here in LSR. That'll be very interesting to keep an eye on as we get underway here. But yeah, should be a number of drivers. You got Slide Gang in the Haas making his debut, along with Pinkweb in McLaren. Of course, Lurka back in the fold. B-Tom ready to roll here under the lights. And again, should be very interesting in what is a very, very technical circuit, but also with a bit of a new addition with the much quicker Sector 3. So downforce, could we see a couple of drivers potentially go a little bit lighter on downforce, try and really take advantage of that? Probably going to see a lot more overtakes than we normally would at Singapore. But of course, with how tight the circuit is, tire wear going to be at a premium, as traction going to be very important to get right, especially right here after that very tight, very technical bridge section. It's all going to come down to strategy at the end of the day. But of course, thank you for joining on this fine Saturday afternoon or evening. Vacant Haddock will be your commentator for tonight, as there is at least our 18th driver joining in LSR Stratting in a reserve role. As Frozen going to get us underway with our first lap here in Singapore as we blast down into this turn 1 chicane. Of course, site of numerous collisions on the opening lap in real life, but you're going to see drivers really attacking those curves heavily, getting it slowed down for turn 3. Big slide there from Frozen as he gets on the power. Of course, through turn 4, trying to really carry that speed, take advantage of one of 3 DRS zones on this circuit. Blasted that little kink of turn 5 into this 90-degree turn number 6. Again, really going to want to try to get all the way out to the curb, utilize all the track in the spots where there is a little bit more runoff, and you get into a number of corners here through 7 through 8. And again, could see a couple overtakes here down into where the old Singapore sling was, down here at turn 9, but it gets very tight here as you get into turn 10, trying to keep all that momentum going, keep it out of the barriers on the inside, through 11, up over the bridge, through turn 12, one of the tightest spots on the F1 calendar to be able to fit a car through is that collection of corners right there. And of course, second DRS zone there, right into third, whereas normally you'd head right and head under the overpass down there. Now you get a nice little DRS zone into this final proper braking zone. Again, when it bleed out towards that wall, utilize all the track possible. Blast through this final corner, flat out to the line. Frozen going to set the bar at a 1:27.2 here early in the session, as Stratting has disconnected here, so I will try to get him back in, so that way we are all set and ready to go on that front. Also still waiting to see the likes of Soa up here, as I did hear from Soa, so hopefully he will rejoin. But Frozen 27-2, solid first go of things. We'll have to see exactly what happens there. Mango with a 28-2 with his first effort. I would expect lap times to fall rather quickly around this circuit. I'm going to try to jump here to the Alpine of Muncher as he makes his way along the backside of the circuit. Muncher going to head to the line 29.115. So definitely the slowest of the first goes of things. We'll see if he can improve. Of course, with Singapore being very technical, we'll see a much wider split in quality than at a number of other circuits. We'll jump on board with Slide Gang as he makes his way with his first go at a qualifying lap here in LSR for the Haas. Lurka, meanwhile, goes second quickest, 27.628. So Williams with a good lap time early. Fight Me Now bot 4th quickest. Slide Gang around the final corner. He'll go to the line. Only a 29.2 from him. So again, going to have to see if that Japan, the Japanese Grand Prix Special Edition of the Haas will be able to jump up any further up the order. Anthrax Robin making his way through Sector 1, I think about 2/10 down on that provisional pole lap as it stands. Going to try to see, is anybody towards the backside of the track on a lap? That is Tristan, still making his way through the early part of the lap. Robin still in the early part of the lap. We'll jump to Pink Web then. 26.8 through the first chunk of the lap there, as we now are up to 18 drivers, with Stratting taking control of Alpine. So he'll at least be ready to go for the race. Stay on board with Pink Web now. Jump actually on board, just so we can see what most of these drivers will be seeing through this very tricky braking zone. Of course, kind of braking through the corner there. And of course, traction very important on the way out. 104.360 for the McLaren through 2 sectors. Also a special edition McLaren shiny and chrome, looking black in some spots under the lights. Of course, McLaren fighting tomorrow to try and have one of their drivers crowned World Drivers' Champion. We'll have to see if it's one of them, or if it will, in fact, be Max Verstappen. Pulling off that late comeback. Pink Web, though, out of the final corner to the line, 29.363. So again, drivers gonna have to try and continue to find pace here. It's again, Singapore, very challenging, very easy to make one mistake that loses you a significant amount of time. Crazy Ray Toto for the Haas now, making his way through the final couple of corners. He'll push to the line. Riatudo, 29.4 from him. And I believe Illyrian will be next to the line for Williams. Last driver on a proper lap. The Williams will slide into the top 10 for now, 29.242. Enough to slot in just ahead of Slide Gang's Haas. So it's Frozen with a very comfortable advantage after this first exchange of laps for Sauber. 4/10 clear of Lurka. McT as well having a very good showing here in the early stages, 27.765. So the Aston Martin very much in the picture as he makes his way out for a second lap. Definitely expecting a bit more of a one-stop in this race. As I believe we are live. I just want to check and make sure we are, so we're good there. I just had to double-check for myself. As Soa is ready, so I'll make sure to get him in. As we have a nice little break in the action to allow for that. As Illyrian is retired, so Illyrian is out. Hopefully that is not from the session, as I'm working to find Soa. Is Soa on PlayStation? But yeah, Illyrian out of the session. He may have crashed into the pit wall, come to think of it. As I'm trying to find Soa here. Oh, nope, that's invites and requests. Apologies. I am not seeing Soa pop up, so we're going to have to do some searching here. Apologies, just some of the struggle behind getting everything running. Soa is on PlayStation, so we will add him that way. So, apologies that you're looking at the pause menu. There he is. So that will be at least 19 drivers. But Illyrian is out. We'll stay with MacT, though. Gonna get try to get a little bit of a tow, that is, from the Red Bull on this second push lap. Making his way through Sector 1, though. Got an Alpine behind. MacT about matching that first sector. So not improving in the early parts. Frozen also underway with his second push lap of the session. MacT just trying to flow really. The second sector is, probably where you're going to see the most time gained at the last. MacT getting very aggressive with that inside curb as well, almost jumping it there. So MacT very aggressive, very much on the limit here for Aston Martin, trying to throw everything at the circuit to try and go after Frozen. Of course, has to make up half a second right now And that's given that Frozen doesn't improve at all, and MacT's only matched his time through the first 2 sectors. But now just 3 corners left to go. Can MacT potentially put his Aston Martin further up the field? I believe as well that Frozen made a mistake on that lap. MacT to the line. He will improve, but only by a 1/10 of a second at the moment. B-Tom underway. He's a bit slow on this lap, so he's not improving. Frozen, I believe, had an incident as well. I don't believe I saw any pop-ups that there were any track limits penalties pending. Sorry, not track limits penalties. Collision penalties that may have led to either B-Tom or Frozen not being able to get another lap in. Fight Me Now bot getting prepped to get back underway. Vanzantino on another push lap. Aston Martin have a very nice day, as are Ferrari. Aston 3rd and 7th, Ferrari 5th and 6th. So they're on a very solid push lap. Also good to see that Soa has checked in. Big slide there from Vanzantino. Good work keeping that rear axle out of the wall in a very shady place to start to lose that rear end. But Vanzantino really hustling that car, and he's lost some time in Sector 2. That slide potentially being the cause of a loss of about 2/10 there. And that's where you're seeing just how technical this circuit can be, how much it punishes. I don't even say a sloppy driving, just the slightest mistake, even from these drivers in the top tier. And Vanzantino going to dive into the pits here with about 6 minutes left in quali. So he will not improve. Hogrider, though, up 3/10 early in his lap. So he's pushing well. Fight Me Now bot. Again, another big slide through the Singapore sling. Same thing there. Look, you can see that rear end just continuing to step out for a number of these drivers. Fight Me Now bot, the latest victim. So that means Fight Me Now bot is only about matching his first lap time, and is now invalidated there, getting into this final DRS zone. So that'll be another lap invalidated. Lurka, meanwhile, pushing the line. He'll improve, so he closes that gap to Frozen. He's down to a 1:27.4. I believe that's Shruz as well, jumping up into 6th, and Frozen goes even quicker, 27.184 for the Sauber. As Frozen flying to the top of the field. So it's Frozen P1, followed by Lurka, MacT, B-Tom, and Fight Me Now bot are your current top 5, as Hogrider jumps into that picture. He picks up 8/10 there, and so that's some of the improvement that we could see from the pace at this point. Hogrider, 27.783. Again, seeing that 8/10 improvement is a big sign that we could see some massive improvements on these final laps. So could that lead to any improvements on the final go of things? Shruz, the full-time G2 driver, definitely making a very big case as to a potential promotion and probable, with the pace that he's shown today, promotion to Group 1 in the next season. Pink Webb getting underway, picked up at 8/10 on that last lap, getting him at least a little bit closer, but still outside the top 10. Mudev in 12th, Slide Gang invalidated, Reziria Tudo on an out lap but has invalidated. Stratting at least up 8/10 on that previous lap, but I think just trying to get some laps sorted at this stage in that Alpine. Again, driver's going to go ahead and pull in, getting ready to go. Frozen into the pits, goes on into the inside of that pit wall. But yeah, that's going to be something to keep in mind once we get into race conditions, especially on worn tires. That Singapore pit entry is very, very treacherous. So could that prove a factor in this race? Could we see just a potential lockup as somebody tries to get slowed down for that 37-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit? That means they are taken out of this race. Crazy Rotudo is underway. He'll get a little bit of a tow from that Ferrari out in front on what will more than likely be the Haas's final lap of the session. Not improving massively there in Sector 1. Of course, that lap time showing that Rotudo potentially with a lot of room to potentially improve. again, doing a nice job swinging out, utilizing all of the track possible. Following him is Fight Me Now, who does currently sit P6, needs about a second of improvement on his final lap to try and potentially battle for pole position. And on this final lap, might be worth considering as well, how much could traffic play a potential factor is the question. It's definitely going to be something important to keep in mind. If somebody has an incident ahead of you, specifically in that very tight, very technical sector 2, could that just, even if they do ghost, which you do have turned on, does that impact your lap enough where you just lose that back end a little bit? It did sound like briefly there, Fight Me Now bot may have been in the wall. Look at things, he is okay, but Crazy Riatudo, first of the final laps of this session, will come to the line, but will only go 16th quickest, 29.248. So it's going to be all to do for the man from Haas. He'll be battling Illyrian back there in a fight to claw his way forward. Fight Me Now bot, though, is underway. We'll have a nice clean track, and now we'll get a tow of his own from the Haas out in front as he tucks right into the gearbox. As the two Ferrari-powered teams will power their way into turn 4, and Fight Me Now bot very nicely up through that first sector, up a quarter of a second on that first go of things. A little bit of a lock up there into turn number 5, but manages it very nicely. Of course, not a lot of brake. Oh, might have tapped the wall there. As you can see, Fight Me Now bot really throwing everything at the circuit. Again, you're seeing a lot of these Group 1 drivers really attack that inside curb there, right after the old Singapore sling. And of course, over the bridge section, Fight Me Now bot tapping that wall again, just trying to carry all the speed possible, potentially getting a little bit of a lockup, a little bit of understeer, but still up half a second through 2 sectors so far. You're trying to utilize all that track, and that's going to bite him. Fight Me Now bot with an invalidation there on the exit of the bridge. In that trying to get that final DRS zone set. Excuse me. And now he's going to spin. And that'll all but secure that lap is done. 29.228 for Fight Me Now bot. Not going to be going to plan for him. He'll retire from the session there. Tristan now getting underway with a lap. B-Tom is about halfway done with his lap, seemingly. A bit of traffic behind. Alpine and a Red Bull. That may be stratting in there. Anthrax Robin will retire, so he will not improve from P10. B-Tom now currently in 5th place. That may be MacT ahead of him as well. I'm not sure. B-Tom into the wall. How much will that impact his lap time? Lurka will only go 2nd quickest. MacT can't fight him. Mango retire. B-Tom will go quicker. He'll jump up onto the 2nd row. So a good showing there. Hog Rider has invalidated. So it seems all but guaranteed that Frozen will be on pole here, and that's Tristan in the wall. And that's a lap aborted by the Red Bull. Hog Rider going to abort that lap. Banzantino still in the early stages of his own lap. But Frozen should have that secured, but Frozen will now go into the wall. Stratting will start from the rear here. I believe that's Slide Gang finishing his session. He'll start P12. Got an Alpine coming to the line. That's Muncher. He'll jump up to 14th. But that is all. Vanzantino and Pinkweb both working their way through. As that's Hog Rider. We'll jump to Pinkweb briefly, who's a little bit further up ahead. He's not improving massively. Neither is Vanzantino. And Vanzantino into the wall. That'll be damage for the Aston Martin. Frozen will go even quicker, though, 26.9, even while not under any sort of threat. We'll go to the top of the field. Soa coming through the final corner, trying to get a lap in. He'll jump up into 14th. Vanzantino, of course, will be starting 9th, but it is Frozen on his return here to LSR, who will be starting at the front of the field here in Singapore. One sec, as I need to let our drivers know that there is 2 not ready up immediately. there is your grid. And we'll be getting ready to go. But Frozen from B-Tom, Lurka there in third as well, threatening, and very tight between two of the Drivers' Championship protagonists. MacT, very solid showing there in fourth. Hogrider doing a very nice job in fifth. Tristan there in seventh, also performing very, very well. Was the Group 2 driver showing very competitive here in Singapore. And we'll now have a brief 2-minute break. Definitely expecting a one-stop if we do manage to stay green the entirety of the race. Just kind of, especially just with how hard it is to overtake. As do you, Zroski, if you are managing to keep pace with them at multiple circuits. So we'll definitely see, it'll definitely be continuing to be interesting as we move into our next season, whether that is another season on F1 25, or if by that point we do have the F1 26 expansion by that point, will be certainly an interesting thing to keep an eye on when that goes live. We'll have to see if that expansion does come out to align with the start of the IRL F1 26 season. And when that's the case, we'll, of course, have to adapt strategies. Of course, racing going to look very different than that with no DRS. Of course, active aero changes will be a very interesting adjustment as well. Which should be nicer to get, hopefully, a little bit, I don't want to say more pure motor racing spectacle. But we'll call it that. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more in terms of slipstream, especially, which seems to be a pretty poor factor in this year's game. And of course, it'll definitely be interesting to keep an eye on the rest of this season first, before we even get into that. So yeah, definitely expecting a good job not starting a Civil War vacant. That was the hope. Luckily we're going pretty smoothly. I made sure to get the lobby up 30 minutes before, so that way the settings are ready. And now we're all good. Plus, the conditions here are stable, so that works too. As I'll go ahead and give the command. You just probably heard that through my phone. I got a new microphone if I sound any different. Probably not. You probably don't give that much of a fuck about my voice. Good luck. Ready up. We'll be getting underway with 31 laps here in Southeast Asia? Southeast Asia. Yeah, it took me a second to remember geography there. But under the lights here in Singapore. And of course, still 6 rounds of racing left to go after this race. Of course, Monza and Jeddah in back-to-back weeks. Before we have another brief break. But should be getting ready to go here. And we are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lights. And we're underway here in Singapore. Looks to be a good jump from the front 2. B-Tom going to be closing in. Of course, going to have that inside line into turn 1. He'll stick that nose up the inside. A little bit of contact, but B-Tom with a great jump to take the lead into turn 1. Got a couple of cars shifting around. Got a Red Bull a bit ghosted there in Tristan, who also gets a little bit loose as he tries to tuck in there. And he'll try to go to the inside of the Ferrari of Fight Me Now. He'll get that move done. And of course, yellow flags behind. Who is that for? That's for the Red Bull of Anthrax Robin, who seems to have gotten caught out. Lurka having to go a little bit defensive there from Hogrider as we make our way into turn number 4 for the first time. Of course, no DRS on this go of things, but B-Tom doing a nice job at holding off Frozen, if only for the moment. As Frozen still showing a lot of pace. Maybe not the greatest jump, as we'll go ahead and check the tires. It's mediums for most of the grid. It's hards for Fight Me Now Bot, for Pinkweb, for Slide Gang Illyrian, BXT, and Mudev. Mango also getting caught up in the early stages here. He's dropped to the back as we're taking a look at some of those possible race strategies powered by AWS, that medium to hard. Lap 14 to 16 going to be the main look here. Fight Me Now Bot getting a nice move there on the exit of the bridge, managing to find his way back past Tristan on the hard compound tire. And so he'll get that done. He's going to have to continue to work to try and stick with some of those lead cars. and Frozen still putting all of the pressure here on B-Tom on lap 1. Lurka still there in the background in this front 3, starting to make a bit of a breakaway from Hog Rider, who's still keeping just about within touching distance. But we'll start lap number 2, and it's B-Tom who leads at the end of the lap as DRS now gets activated. So we'll head through the first couple of corners. Tristan's starting to fall off a little bit more now. Muncher's had a great start. He's found his way all the way up into 7th place, as the Red Bull may have picked up a little bit of damage on that opening lap. So not sure if that's potentially causing Tristan any trouble, though he seems to be very, very slidey here in the opening stages. Frozen, meanwhile, will try to go around the outside of B-Tom to try and retake the lead. B-Tom can't do anything about it with that DRS, and it's Frozen for about a lap and a third who retakes the lead here in Singapore. Muncher, meanwhile, has now officially dispatched Shruz, who does seem to be perhaps struggling a little bit with a more quali-centric setup. So we'll see if that plays a factor, if it's just trying to get into the rhythm with some of the dirty air that's potentially putting the Red Bull off. But the midfield battle going to potentially start to heat up. A bit deep for Pinkweb as Tristan into the back of Muncher as well. And DRS, of course, going to be activated on the Red Bull. Well, it's Muncher having to go defensive here, as Shruz's going to have to try and go around the outside. Not going to get it done, but he'll have a second helping of DRS now, and now he'll set up to try and go to the inside of the Alpine, and looks like he will have enough straight line speed to power through. And it's Tristan back up into 7th, but this is just going to continue to lose time to this front pack. Of course, you got trying to 2 groups of 3 at the moment. It's Frozen, B-Tom, and Lurka as one pack, and then it's Hog Rider, Mac T, Fight Me Now Bot as that chasing pack. And then back to 7th, of course, you have Tristan, and then it's a long, long train all the way back to Mudev in 18th, trying to stay in this race here on lap number 3. Of course, no changes for the lead here. Mac T, though, going to get past Hog Rider as the second group potentially starting to work together a little bit as they potentially realize that, hey, if we fight too much, that lead group of 3 might have too much of an opportunity to be able to pull away. Tristan, meanwhile, continuing to fall off that front 3, and he and Muncher battling away. Muncher looked to potentially have a go there, as the Alpine with a lot of pace compared to that Red Bull, having to check up there, though, into the Singapore sling. That's causing cars to go into the back. How long and how patient will some of these cars a bit further behind be? Muncher trying to look to the inside of the Red Bull. Will we see a similar move now that the Alpine will have 2 helpings of DRS? Again, Pinkweb, I think, feeling that he's potentially being hung up here by the Alpine and the Red Bull. And, how many of these drivers are potentially out of place from qualifying? And apologies, there are 4 DRS zones. I forgot about the run into Turn 1 being a DRS zone on this circuit, as I mentioned in qualifying. Thinking that there are only 3. But yeah, it's very clear that there's really 2 different races going on here. Kind of got Group 1 in that top 6, and then you got a bit more of a Group 1.5 behind. Big slide there from Shruz, though, as he's pushing to try and stay ahead of Muncher, who's going to, again, take a look to the inside, but not able to quite get anything going. Will that potentially, though, impact the Red Bull as we run down into turn number 5? Fight Me Now Bot with a bit of a mistake behind, as he's fallen off the back. There's Muncher looking to the outside now of the Red Bull, and as they appear, the Red Bull still out in front. Potentially looking for a switchback, though, is the Alpine. They'll be side by side as they head into turn 6. Lock up, though, from the Red Bull, as he's potentially looking to go a little bit deep as they're continuing to fight. Muncher still looking to try and find a move, but still it's Tristan getting those elbows out, defending with his life, trying to keep everybody behind. And so far, successfully continuing to do so. Frozen, meanwhile, unable to really drop the likes of B-Tom, the likes of Lurka, a bit further behind. Fight Me Now Bot, though, has continued to drop off a little bit. So again, so again, just a little mistake here can lose you chunks and chunks of time, or even potentially get you that little bit of damage that sets your race back. Tristan, though, continuing to defend here, as that battle for P7 really is, really the tightest one on track as of this moment. You can see the Ferrari up in the distance as Fight Me Now Bot starting to struggle a little bit. So is there front wing damage on that Ferrari that we can't quite see? Mac T started to fall off the back of Lurka as well. We saw that gap closing briefly, and that's Tristan Round. Tristan with a rear lock, and that's the Red Bull in the wall. Down at turn number 2. He'll get that car recovered, but massive front wing damage. And that'll now release Muncher in 7th. And importantly, it might also release Pinkweb back there in 8th, though it doesn't look like he'll have to move on this lap. As Otters dude checking in. Hopefully you are doing well. But still, very early in this Singapore Grand Prix, B-Tom in that V-Carb took the lead off the grid after starting from 2nd with a nice move into turn number 1. But on lap 2, Frozen was able to get back past and has now led from that point on. And it's really early. It was 2 groups early in this race. It's been 2 groups of 3. Frozen, B-Tom, Lurka, Mac T, Hog Rider, Fight Me Now Bot. Current championship leader is B-Tom in the V-Carb. Frozen in the Sauber is making his debut here in, what is this, season 11? Season 12? This is season 12. I know what season this is. I'm a league admin. I should know this. But I don't. As you got Pinkweb looking to go down the inside of Muncher here. They're going to battle. It's going to be Muncher, though, giving him the squeeze, being braver on the brakes around that outside, unable to slide back in front of that McLaren. They'll head through the final corner, and the McLaren going to have another opportunity as we head into turn 1 as the battle for P7 continues to heat up. There's the McLaren once again going to the inside. Does Pinkweb finally have enough speed to get past? Finally he does. So that's Pinkweb finally up into 7th. BXT going to dive into the pits. Tristan now into the pits as well. Of course, Pinkweb going to be under pressure now from the Alpine behind with DRS. How aggressive now will Muncher be on the driver with a different compound of tire? He'll go to the inside as we head into turn number 4. But again, it's the McLaren being braver. And again, with all the drivers behind, Mercedes damage. Yes, I believe BXT did get damage in that early stage. Soa, meanwhile, in the second Mercedes, is doing all right. Mac T, meanwhile, has made a bit of a breakaway from Hog Rider. This is the F1 grid reversed a little bit. Red Bull last, Sauber first. Yeah, I mean, it is worth noting as well that Tristan did have a massive incident at the start of lap number 4. Though I think that means that Tristan is cosplaying as Yuki Tsunoda in this race, because that might not be completely out of place. Of course, disappointing to hear that Yuki Tsunoda will not be on the Formula 1 grid as of next season. Disappointing as well to see that Isaac Hadjar got demoted to the second Red Bull seat, so definitely a bit disappointing for him. But hopefully we'll see if he can break that curse. It will still be Pinkweb, though, starting to pull out a little bit of a gap. Those hard tires potentially starting to be a little bit better as we're about, as we're arguably past the halfway point of what will likely be that the life of that medium tire. I think, tire wear is certainly going to be very important as yellow flags, as a big collision there from the seemingly Fight Me Now button. Hog Rider with a big collision, as I think Hog Rider made a mistake and was in the wall, and I think Fight Me Now bot went into the back of him. And so that'll bring in a virtual safety car here, and Fight Me Now bot will retire from the session. I saw those yellow flags, and that'll bring out the full safety car now. As I don't know if that was Fight Me Now bot with a bit of a crash out of anger there. But I'll bring out the full safety car here at lap number 7. And so now it becomes decision time for a number of drivers. We'll not bring a number of drivers back into this race. Mango, BXT, and Tristan will now at least be back in with will at least now have a chance to recatch the field. Lurka also seemingly, I think, trying to extend his delta a little bit. The team this hurts the most right now is arguably McLaren. 10 seconds should hopefully be enough time for that pit crew to service both cars. But with that front wing change, certainly going to be very tight for Pinkweb. And of course, that pit lane entry going to have to be taken very cautiously, trying to avoid the inside wall. All 3 leaders will dive into the pits. Here comes Mac T. Here comes Hog Rider. What will Pinkweb opt to do as the leader on the hard compound tire here. Pinkweb will opt to stay out. So Pinkweb on the hard compound tire will opt to stay out here. I think it's going to be interesting to see where exactly he comes out in relation to the field. Can he beat the grid into turn number 1? We'll go ahead and hide the UI real quick so you can see the McLaren emerging. And so it will be Pinkweb leading the race here under safety car on lap number 8. But but pretty much the entirety of the rest of the grid pitting. Vanzantino getting a front wing change. Sowo into the pits. Riatudo stratting. And, of course, pretty much the entire grid outside of Sliding and Pinkweb, who started on the hard compound tire, will all dive into the pits here after the DNF of Fight Me Now bot at this point in the race. Definitely will try to find out exactly what went down in there. I imagine we'll probably see some sort of a ticket regarding it for post-race review, but certainly an odd incident between Hog Rider and Fight Me Now bot. So we'll have to wait and see. But Frozen still the net leader. Lorca, I think, a big loser in that one, as he got jumped by Slide Gang. Of course, I imagine the Williams will be able to jump the Haas rather quickly. But I think certainly out of place. Mango staying aggressive as well, thinking that those hards that everybody has slapped on may not make the end of this race. He'll stay on the mediums as well. He's actually seemingly disconnected as he is ghosted. So I will attempt to re-invite Mango. Again, seemingly he is out. I did not hear anything regarding that. So I'll have to wait and see if anything continues there. Of course, still will have at least one more lap now under safety car. Lap number 9 will allow us an opportunity as well to take a look at some of the position changes so far. Of course, Pinkweb and Slide Gang a little bit out of place with being up 10 and 8 spots since they have yet to pit. But a couple of drivers with some great races so far. Muncher up 6 spots. Of course, we saw him in that early battle for 7th. So effectively, he's up 8 spots from his starting position. So a great start from him. Illyrian doing a nice job as well. He's up 5 spots. So very respectable as well, being up 4. But still, lots of racing left to go. Only going to be at about the 1/3 mark once we get back underway. Of course, Tristan down 11 spots after that big impact with the wall. Of course, taking that extra stop to slap on the hard compound tires. Tristan actually going off track there, trying to catch the field. So Tristan even getting too aggressive with the safety car still out. So that will certainly be a wait-and-see type deal. I imagine we should get back underway with racing this lap, as Mango is still ghosted. Excuse me. Dealing with a little bit of a cold, but we're trucking on nonetheless. I think another interesting thing, will we get a late safety car in message since Tristan is so far behind the field? That's certainly a wait and see, as Tristan, I don't think, will quite get within that 10 car lengths. And he will not, so we will have one more lap under the Aston Martin safety car as the Red Bull unable to quite catch the back of the field. So we'll get underway with lap 10. Slide Gang, though, will take advantage here and will take the initiative. He thinks that at this point, it's worth the loss of taking that stop. Especially if he feels that it's another 2 stops from here. He'll slap on a fresh set of hard compound tires. So I think Slide Gang almost certainly hoping that there will be another stop for everybody in this race. but he'll drop to the back of the field. Of course, is appearing there right now. And we'll get back underway. So everybody, with the exception of Pinkweb, has now made their first stop in this race. So please keep that in mind as we continue under lights here. Of course, going to be getting back underway with the start of lap number 11. And it's going to be Frozen going after Pinkweb. There is Tristan checking in chat. Of course, I think just took too much curb there into turn 1, potentially bottomed out that car, leading to that spin and impact with the wall. Well, again, you can see cars all filtering their way through the bridge here, through another part of Marina Bay. Definitely good to see real water on this circuit, unlike the fake water at some other circuits. Miami. But the safety car is in this lap, so Pinkweb, of course, now has control. Keeping a bit of a hotter pace right now, and now we'll slow it down. Uncook myself. No. Oh, wait, sorry. For some reason, I thought that was directed at me, Zroski. I am an idiot. I am stupid. Which, ironically, I pulled off in this league when I crashed from P2 and charging at Baku. Pinkweb, though, now with control, again, keeping a rather quick pace. Frozen tapping the back of the McLaren. Was looking to hold the field pretty quick. When will he opt to take off? Now he'll go. So we are back underway here in Singapore, and it's a little bit of a shaky restart here from Pinkweb. Frozen on the charge, going to take a peek to the inside, trying to put a little bit of pressure on that McLaren, who's going to hold him off through the first couple of corners. Mango has, in fact, disconnected, as that is a ghost. So everybody will be going through Frozen, looking around the outside of Pinkweb as they head into turn number 4, and it's the Sauer back into the lead of the race very, very comfortably. We do not have red flags turned on, Oliver Stude, just due to some of the issues surrounding that, as B-Tom makes his way past Pinkweb as well. First race watching. Yeah, so just kind of give you an idea of some of the settings. To have standard rate damage, but reduced overall damage. Of course, that could change from into next season. As Lurka bouncing all over the place, trying to get past Pinkweb, as he's now losing heaps of time to those cars out in front. Frozen's now starting to make a bit of a... Could you join the tournament? So yeah, you can join mid-season. We have a number of groups ongoing, as there is Lurka. There's Macti getting past the McLaren, and now it's going to be McLaren versus McLaren. As there's Hog Rider looking to find a way past his teammate. He'll go down the inside. The teammates make contact, and that'll allow Muncher through as well, as Pinkweb plummeting down the order here. But it's Frozen and B-Tom 1 and 2 as we end lap number 11, and Frozen already is starting to make a bit of a breakaway. Pinkweb all the way down to 9th. Yeah, we do have, we're a cross-play league. We got 4 tiers as of right now across F1, and then an additional Le Mans Ultimate group. So, Zroski, I don't know if you can throw an invite link to the league in chat. That would be great, since I'm a little bit tied up at the moment. But it's Frozen with a second lead over B-Tom. Lurka now with MacT and Hog Rider waiting in the wings. And now it might be Lurka, the DRS train conductor, as the V-Carb and the Sauber start to disappear into the distance. Thank you, Zroski. But now it's 1 and 2 starting to make a breakaway. Anthrax Robin will jump up into 9th. It's actually going to be Pinkweb looking to still stick a nose up the inside there on those much older tires. But it's still the Red Bull staying out in front. And again, it continues to be Pinkweb who sinks like a stone here. Again, I'm not really sure when Mango disconnected. Links don't work in YouTube, lol. Okay, then I will figure out something. How lame. That might be anti-scam stuff. I'm not sure, but I can definitely try and leave the stream up a little bit longer. Try and get something hooked up. There might also be a link in our YouTube bio if you want to check there for a Discord invite link. That might be another place to check. Can definitely get that figured out. lap 13, and B-Tom's done a nice job to close that gap to Frozen. Within DRS range now are the two men. So we'll stick with this battle for the lead as B-Tom seemingly getting aggressive here. Is it a potential mistake from Frozen? Here's B-Tom up the inside, and B-Tom will take the lead here. Those clankers have links. Yeah, that is also true, but I don't know if we have anything set up. But B-Tom will take the lead rather comfortably here. What's going on with Frozen there? As now seemingly he has retaken control. But is this a potential, was it that Frozen potentially trying to attack very aggressively and now having to recharge some of the battery? Seemingly okay, but a bit of a slide there trying to put the power down. Still going to be very tight, but this is going to allow the likes of Lurka and MacT to start to close up. MacT doing a very nice job at keeping with the Williams. And of course, with DRS, Frozen still far from out of the fight. Something important to keep in mind there. Slide Gang's in the wall, back on the exit of the bridge. Looks like the Haas able to recover, but he's down both front wing end plates. He'll recover that car. When is the next race season? So we got about 6. So this is round 6 of 12 in the current season. We're not exactly. We're kind of waiting to see what the plan is for the F1 26 expansion, potentially, before looking at planning our next season, just depending on when that expansion will release, as B-Tom will hold on to that lead as we head down into turn number 5. So B-Tom getting some more laps led on the board. Lurka as well, continuing to close up, so the Williams showing a lot of pace. When is the next race? So we have 4 F1 groups active right now. Groups 1 and 4 are at 1 and 3 Central. Groups 1 and 4 are at 3 Central. So Zdrowski, no, Group 4 was earlier today. Group 2 and 3 are tomorrow. So Zdrowski is incorrect there. So the next race will be Group 2 tomorrow. Yes, there are groups that we have based on pace. This is Group 1. This is our top group. So, going to see the fastest drivers in this split. Group 2 is a little bit slower. You'll see a couple of drivers from Group 2 reserve up into Group 1 on occasion, but trying to get that. Is it like F2 or F3? No, it is all F1 cars. They're racing the circuits all the same. It's just different drivers in each one, just based on the pace of each driver. So in a similar way, it's the pace of the drivers less than the pace of the cars. Yes, groups are like divisions is the best way of thinking about it. And so we try to balance as best we can based on that. Lurka, meanwhile, can you ask questions? Yes. As Frozen has continued to fall off a little bit here, as Lurka and MacT have now caught the lead of this race. That's, of course, dragged Hogrider still with the pack. Soa picks up a penalty for track limits. Muncher, meanwhile. Muncher's been on a great race so far. He's back up all the way into P6, and we're getting a safety car now. So safety car is out. What is that for? That is for Stratting and Shruz, as Shruz with another crash into the wall. And I believe Stratting was in that as well. So another safety car here on lap number 15. And that, once again, will mix up this race as Illyrian will retire. So Illyrian retires from the session, potentially just unable to finish in this one. Still waiting to see where that Mercedes is, or was. As I believe it's already despawned, surprisingly. But seemingly Stratting and Tristan come together, and that'll bring out the second safety car of this race. Safety car, of course, normally is on standard. It is on reduced due to the prevalence of incidents at Singapore. But already onto our second safety car. Frozen will dive into the pits here. And he's the lone leader? Actually, no, he's not. Solo will die into the pits, but he'll pick up a 10-second penalty for speeding. Anthrax Robin will head into the pits. Mudev, BXT. So a number of split strategies here across the grid. Frozen, of course, will be one of the leaders on the charge on the fresh set. Of course, his teammate of Mudev going to be held up a little bit. Joined. Great to hear. And we can, you can get run through the join process there. It's our second driver, though, out of this race completely. It's now B-Tom and Lurka 1 and 2. MacT then in third. Hogrider. Muncher's up into fifth. So Muncher's having a great race so far. So again, trying to check Discord to see exactly what's going on. And I haven't heard much of anything. So I haven't heard anything regarding some of the incidents that have taken place so far in the chat. But now with everybody pitted, we got another opportunity to take a look at some of the position changes. Muncher definitely in there with a massive argument. For driver of the day. Up 10 spots. Next race after Singapore. So next week will be the next race for all groups. And that race is at Jeddah. That race is at Monza. So we will race at Monza next week for all 4 groups. But we will have 2 races tomorrow, also at Singapore. So keep an eye out for those streams, which should hopefully be live at 1 p.m. Central and with Group 2. So our second tier of racing, and Group 3, our third tier, at 3 p.m. Central U.S. time. But it is B-Tom that still leads as we cross the halfway point. Of course, going to be under the safety car for quite a while as we await the Haas of Sly Gang to try and recatch the pack. But again, get a bunch of the field right back up as we get going to go racing. Vote for driver of the day? No, we just go off of the in-game driver of the day. You can certainly root for a driver in chat, have somebody be your driver of the day. But for the official driver, we do recognize the in-game driver of the day as an actual stat in our standings. But it's more of a, hey, you made the most overtakes most of the time, as opposed to a full-on driver of the day. But I think Muncher, regardless, still very much in the picture for that. We've seen him in a couple of battles so far. Of course, main one there was with Shruz's Red Bull in the early stages. And then, of course, that turned into defending from the likes of Hogrider and Pinkweb. Or sorry, that was just it was just Pinkweb, if I'm not mistaken, that he was defending from. Is Sly Gang is still in the race. I'm just trying to work his way back around. Of course, about 20 seconds off the pack, so hopefully should be able to recatch. We may get underway this lap regardless, at which point it would be 14 laps of racing left to go. Of course, haven't seen any indication as well that we may be seeing some, for drivers with penalties, they shouldn't pit unless they have damage. You also cannot serve those penalties in the pit lane for track limits. That's just a matter of this year's game. So, of course, is the exception with 10 seconds. And it does look like we'll have one more lap here under safety car. And we will have one more lap under safety car. So we'll get underway at the start of lap number 19, so it'll be 13 laps of racing here at Singapore left to go as we get back underway. What is Shruz user? Shruz is Tristan in the Red Bull Otters, just as a little bit of extra context. So, you'll see some of the mix-ups in there. Of course, the tags that you'll see here on YouTube and on Discord don't always match in-game. One great example of that is our welcome manager. Don't ask questions there, just enjoy it. I don't understand him either. South Africans, what are you going to do? Again, it is still B-Tom that will be the one guiding the restart here. But Stratting in 14th, going on mediums. Again, a number of drivers actually going to mediums. Soa, Mudev, BXT, Pinkweb, Stratting. And the safety car should extend the life of those mediums by a comfortable amount. And it seems that Tristan and Stratting came together in a corner on accident. Of course, gap is going to be very tight here. But we'll see what continues. But we will get back underway here with the start of lap number 19. Safety car in this lap, so B-Tom now has control of the pack. You'll see that Aston Martin safety car vanish off into the distance as B-Tom slows that pack down to let the safety car start to pull away. Going to keep that pack to just around 50 miles an hour. We've seen B-Tom do this so many times. His Hog Rider is now DC'd. So I'll try to invite the McLaren, try to get him back in. As unfortunately, disconnect's proven to be a little bit of an issue. As B-Tom continuing to keep the pack slow. And now he'll take off just before this chicane. And Tristan gets a drive-through for ignoring yellow flags. As what is the Red Bull... As the Red Bull... Okay, Tristan, that's a borderline season ban, dude. Tristan, what are you doing? That is a borderline season ban, my guy. Just jumping everybody on after safety car, you don't do that. Frozen will get a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. That'll be hopefully wiped out. And Frozen's in the wall. We'll continue racing, though, surprisingly. Frozen will retire from the session. Yeah, Tristan, you don't do that shit. But Frozen is out. Muncher, meanwhile, up into 4th. Hog Rider has been able to rejoin. It's tons of contact. Tristan will now retire. Aston Martin with damage is Vanzantino. Yeah, like, I don't know what... And hopefully we don't see any more. I mean, sometimes you don't have any words for restart. DRS will be enabled. It's B-Tom from Lurka. Mac T still in the picture. And then it's Muncher, Robin, and Hog Rider. And then you got a bit more of a damage brigade back here with the likes of Vanzantino and Pinkweb. And Truz, when I say season ban, that's like a full, that's, you know, borderline full ban worthy. Robin will get back past Muncher. And there's more collisions there. That's BXT now in the wall. Yeah, Muncher having a great race. He's in 5th, and Robin, of course, with 3 seconds of penalties. Yeah, Frozen, I'm sorry that happened, man. We'll be sure to give a review of safety car procedure. Yeah, Frozen got caught up in Yeah. I mean, Tristan, that wasn't a mistake. That was just being a dipshit. Soa will now retire in the pits. That's another driver out. 11 laps left to go. Pinkweb will also dive into the pits and retire. But Robin, the leader on the fresh set of tires, of course, going to be trying to pull out that 3 seconds now from the likes of Muncher. Yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, Tristan. You have to hold position until, you can't overtake. That's still overtaking under safety car. We specifically have a rule against going side by side on the restart as they have in real life, much less overtaking. And, to the inside goes the Aston Martin on BXT. BXT makes his way through as Soa has disconnected. Again, definitely disappointing to have the race kind of devolve a bit into chaos. And, of course, got a number of drivers now just trying to manage that damage. BXT, of course, with no end plates. Vanzantino with a damaged front wing. I believe Mudev has some damage as well. He'll try to go to the inside. And he'll get that move done. Beatom, of course, hasn't been able to pull away from Lurka. Still half a second in it between the V-Carb and the Williams. And Thrasher Robin, meanwhile, continuing to work off that penalty. And even a P6 for Muncher would be great. As apologies for some of the drop-in energy. Definitely don't want to see a race come down to demo derby stuff at the end. Of course, you'd expect high attrition at Singapore in any race. But of course, you'd hope for that to be a bit more natural. Zarowski, he may, again, when a penalty is that significant, it may be, carried across groups. Pinkweb has retired for McLaren, so he is out. But 23 of 31, here comes Lurka with DRS, but he's continuing to hold on to some of that ERS there. So the Williams not going to get the move there into turn at number 5. Hogrider battling with Muncher, and it's Hogrider through. So Hogrider now up into 5th. Of course, still doesn't have Muncher cleared, as both drivers on a similar set of tire. Yeah, that is, 4 track limits, of course. So Stratting picking up a 3-second time penalty. Of course, that's just going for all 4 wheels over the line. Vanzantino, though, trying to pull away. You got both Hasses battling over the remaining point, just trying to stick with them. And of course, you can see damage all over the field here. Slide Gang, actually one of the few drivers without damage in this group, or without visible damage. And then Stratting, again, continuing to work there. Lap 24 of 31. And B-Tom continuing to go to work, continuing to hold Lurka back. Mudev, 3-second time penalty for track limits. Muncher, meanwhile, has actually gotten back past Hogrider there for 5th. Big wiggle, though, through, on the exit of turn number 3. We'll see if he continues to hold on. Crazy Ria Tudo next recipient of a 3-second time penalty for track limits infringements. Here comes Hog Rider, though. Muncher going to take a little bit of a defensive line. Hog Rider going to try to send it down the inside. Going to actually force Muncher off there. And so they'll continue to battle on Hog Rider. I think going to let Muncher back through after just mistiming that move. But still good to see both drivers keeping it clean. And so they'll continue to battle here on lap 24. Lurka, though, continuing to close up to the back of B-Tom. Actually going to be a little bit of contact between the Williams and the Racing Bulls. A little bit of front wing to rear wing there. Anthrax Robin continuing to close on that fresh set of tires. But how much will be the burning question? Just taking a look at the fastest lap quickly. We'll stay on tire. Fastest lap currently would go to Frozen with a 31.187. So that fastest lap point, as of right now, would not be awarded. Start lap 25, though, and again, that dirty air from B-Tom doing just enough to keep Lurka behind. And Mac T, again, continuing to put pressure on the back of the Williams, keeping him honest. And, of course, B-Tom kind of has to keep some of that bulletproof consistency we've seen season after season after season from him. Still a big battle going on, of course, over P9 as BXT picks up a 3-second penalty of his own for multiple track limits warnings. Of course, with that front wing damage, it's going to be harder and harder to keep that car pointed the right direction. But again, it's B-Tom continuing to put together a very nice defensive drive, defending in all the right spots with ERS to keep that Williams behind. You can see that Red Bull, though, closing in the background. Muncher and Hog Rider, though, continuing to fight. It'll be 6 laps to go next time we come across the line. So still about 10 minutes of racing remaining, 10 minutes of opportunities for Lurka to get moves done. 10 minutes also potentially for Anthrax Robin to be in with an opportunity. Again, B-Tom doing a nice job opening up that gap. That's 2/10 further now. As 18 laps on the hard compound tires. So I think it's also worth questioning, can these hard compound tires make the end of this race? A bit of an oversteer there from B-Tom. Is that going to put him under threat as we run down into turn number 5? DRS going to be available now for Lurka. Will this be the first lead change since that second safety car? Lurka closing, he'll go to the outside. B-Tom going to give him the squeeze to the outside, and now it's going to be Lurka who gets squeezed wide. So B-Tom will hold on to the lead here. Anthrax Robin, meanwhile, has caught the pack with 6 left to go. So 4 drivers now in this lead fight. Muncher still holding on to 5th back there. Mudev and BXT have been closing, though, despite the damage. B-Tom getting that power down. Slide Gang, meanwhile, will jump up into 9th, though that's because there is an Aston Martin in the wall. That's Vanzantino, I think, potentially with a big lockup there, just getting the braking zone wrong. So it'll drop him down to 12th now, as he's been holding off the Haas cars for a while. As we'll come to the line to start lap number 27, B-Tom continually getting more and more under threat now. (27 of 31). B-Tom continuing to hold on. Vanzantino, I'm not quite sure. Stratton will retire from the session. Is that a wreck? That is a crash! Stratton crashes, and that'll bring out the safety car. So a late race safety car now here in Singapore, and Riatudo and Slide Gang collide as the teammates try to enter the pit lane. So that'll be effectively down to 11 drivers. As from what I am aware, Mango is in AI. But that'll turn it into a 3-lap showdown here in Singapore. As Stradine just making a mistake that will allow a number of drivers to get front wings changed. But it is another safety car. Excuse me for one moment. All drivers who are still racing and listening, keep in mind that the safety car will be in at the end of lap 28, regardless of if the pack is formed up. If I am not mistaken, it will be either end of lap 28 or lap 29 for races remaining. Just keep in mind that safety car may be quicker than you anticipate. Cool, there we go. Oh, B-Tom! B-Tom's in the wall! B-Tom trying to hustle it out of the final corner, and into the wall he goes, and now gets track limits. B-Tom with an unforced under safety car error, and now it'll be Lurka who leads. What is happening in this race? That will, of course, require a front wing change that'll drop him back to 4th. MacT's on the hards. Everybody else is up there opting for softs. Muncher stays out, and Muncher will lead. What is happening here in Singapore? As Muncher opts to go aggressive here, I can tell you, based on that, after that first safety car period, I don't think this is a strategy that will go over very well at all. So you can see that safety car just up ahead of the Alpine. Of course, Mango's AI staying out on the hards, but everybody else opting for at least a fresh set of tires. Softs are the most prevalent choice. Of course, most drivers may have a fresh set depending on the tire allocation that you've selected. Of course, 7 DNFs in Singapore, not completely unheard of, especially when you're dealing with connections. Of course, some of those are manual retirements as well. But a very chaotic race, as we're over about a minute and 15 seconds now. Or, sorry, a minute and 15, an hour and 15. So definitely one of our longer sessions. And it's not over yet. See if we get a late safety car in message. Apologies. Okay, so I believe it was a 2-lap minimum. Okay, so apologies. It is a 2-lap racing minimum. One sec. Apologies on that update. I was mistaken as to what the minimum laps of racing after a safety car is. So, one more lap under safety car, and then we'll get back underway. It'll be 2 laps here under the lights that Muncher will have to try and hold everybody off. Of course, a number of drivers with penalties, B-Tom with track limits. Muncher, of course, does lead with some of the pace we've seen from Lurka, and off that first safety car restart, where it was Pinkweb leading the way on 7-lap-old versus fresh hard tires. I imagine this will be a rather poor decision here for Muncher. We'll get back underway. Of course, Muncher still in there with an argument for driver of the day. So we'll see if this, more than likely tactical blunder, based on how quickly we saw Pinkweb drop, will impact the remainder of this race. But again, with 2 laps, can he hold drivers off? Will there be enough drivers attempting to, trying to stay aggressive, trying to make big moves as we head to the end of this race? That could impact the final result. And of course, there's still 6 rounds left here in this championship. Of course, Lurka, probably the best driver right now to have a shot at unseating VTOM as Drivers' Champion. So it will be 2 laps of racing remaining. Safety car is in, so Muncher has control. Of course, keeping the pack a little bit quicker than we saw VTOM do just a moment ago. As you can see, that Aston Martin safety car is still vanishing off into the distance. And so we'll see, when will Muncher choose to take off? As we head into this chicane, will he leave it late, try and not give Lurka as much of a grip advantage as possible? No, he'll go right there on the exit, but as a solid restart from Lurka, he's still right on the rear wing of that Alpine. Of course, no DRS this lap. It'll be all in the grip. As Muncher having to defend there into turn 1. You got Mac T and Robin side by side behind. Mac T looking to make move, having to defend now from Robin on the soft compound tire. And it's 2x2 behind Muncher, who has to go defensive there into turn 4. Here comes Lurka trying to sweep around the outside. A bit of an understeer, though, from Muncher, and that'll promote Mac T into the lead. So a mistake there from Muncher on those old hard compound tires will demote him down into 4th. Muncher and Lurka down into 5th. And now it's Mac T having to defend from Robin, who's going to go to the inside. And he'll get that move done into turn number 5. It's going to open the door for B-Tom as well to try and go around the outside of Mac T. Will he get that move done as well? And remember, Robin and B-Tom both with 3-second time penalties here. B-Tom up into 2nd place. Muncher now battling with Lurka as Lurka trying to find any way through. As Muncher trying to hold on to as many positions as possible. That's just letting the leaders continue to pull away and also bottling up any other cars from getting into that fight. Here comes Lurka now on the attack. He'll look round the outside here. And the Williams going to get it done there under braking. It's going to be the Mercedes of BXT trying to find his way through as well, and there's contact. But they'll get it through. Yellow flags are nowhere. That's just a bit of a bug there. Muncher still in 6th. He looked to maybe tag the back of Hog Rider there, who's gained a place. BXT back through. DRS, of course, now enabled. As B-Tom trying to get the move done on Anthrax. Robin, who continues to lead. But Mac T currently in the driver's seat. It's looking to come down to potentially Mac T and Lurka here. Down to the wire on the final lap here at Singapore. It's the drivers in 3rd and 4th. Potentially battling for the win. You can see Robin and B-Tom off to the left. There goes the Aston Martin and the Williams. There's B-Tom making a big send to the inside there. Trying to get that move done. That's going to be Slide Gang out of this race. Of course, no safety car for the remainder of this race. Robin and B-Tom continue to stay side by side. It's going to hold up Mac T, bring Lurka back into this fight. And it's so tight between these top 4. As they head through the sling. That's tight. Keep an eye on the green and blue machines. As we head through the bridge now. It's Mac T having to go defensive. Of course, that hard compound tire is going to be lit up now on this 2nd lap. But will it have enough grip? Here comes Lurka trying to look to the outside here. Can he be brave enough on the brakes? No, he cannot for now. It's 1 braking zone left to go. It's between Mac T and Lurka without penalties to try and win here in Singapore. 1 braking zone left to go. I don't think Lurka has enough. It'll be Anthrax Robin across the line first, but at least on track, it'll be Mac T winning here in Singapore in Group 1. It'll be Lurka across the line in 2nd, followed by Robin and B-Tom. Hog Rider will come across the line in 5th, BXT in 6th. But at least on track, that may be Mac T's maiden victory here in Singapore. In what was a very, very chaotic affair. But yeah, ultimately, not sure what happened there. Definitely some of the allure there. But of course, BXT will be awarded Driver of the Day, at least from that award. When we look at it, 18th to 6th for BXT on the 3-stop. But there are your final results. And it's Mac T from 4th on the grid on top, followed by Lurka, Robin in 3rd, B-Tom, Hog Rider, BXT, Muncher, Muda, Vanzantino, and Crazy Ria Tudo. Round out your finishers. Of course, standings are posted in Discord. So overall standings, yeah, vacant dying sounds is very accurate. Definitely trying to not die. But yeah, it is MACT winning, a very chaotic affair under the lights here in Singapore. Definitely be sure to tune in next week as we head to Monza for hopefully a cleaner affair. Congratulations, of course, to MACT on the victory. Definitely be sure to to stay tuned tomorrow for Group 2 and Group 3 at this very same circuit. Until next week, I will see you later. Have a good one.